Welcome to Subramani. Going to talk to you about a solid case for international investing, largely because some of the high growth industries are not available in India. I mean, you don't have semiconductors, you don't have the Alibabas, you don't have Facebook, Google, right? You don't have SAP, you don't have any European company, you don't have airlines, you don't have sin industry at all. When I meant airline, I mean you don't have any aircraft manufacturer, you don't have the arms and ammunition, adult entertainment, casinos, none of that. And some companies in Korea and Taiwan give you 6-7% kind of return. Now, if you add 1 or 2% to of the dollar increasing in value, then you may be getting close to 8-9% or maybe even 10% in dividend yield alone. So there is some reason why you should be diversifying, and also the fact that you don't have to get into this growth versus value debate. Let's leave that to the academics. You can do both growth and value. I have some shares of mine which will never meet a value criteria, and I have some shares which will never meet a growth criteria, and I don't see any problem in that. I mean, there is no way how, given the ROE and the lack of pricing power, would Indigo ever come into the list of a good buy. But I definitely have Indigo in my books, and I bought it sub 1000 during the recent fall. I've always been flirting with Indigo. I've still not decided that it is going to be a great long-term bet, but I have a trading bet almost always, right? So very rarely do I go off completely, but yes, I had gone off, and therefore I could afford to buy it at a lower price, right? So are we a growth market or are we a value market? I find it very difficult to define. And when you factor in all the growth into the value, then you realize that, well, both are happening. So a Bharti at 80 rupees was definitely not a value buy. But if you said that, oh, I could see all the value coming from the growth, then, well, in HDFC you see all the value coming in from the quality of management, right? So not just every move of theirs, but just top class management, ability to attract talent, ability to retain talent, ability to constantly create new subsidiaries, whether it is mutual fund or insurance or educational loans, or being able to take a reasonably significant stake in the revival of a Yes Bank, right? So some of those trends are getting translated. So so the value in HDFC is being captured by so many other things. So understanding what is growth and understanding what is value is also very important. And Indian market may be a growth market today, I'm not guessing, but there could be some other markets in the world which are value markets, right? So US, for example, there is a tech boom. To say that the tech boom has stopped based on what happened in the last couple of months may not be true, because it might come back. But however, does it mean you should put all your money in US? The answer is no. Then you need to put some money in Europe, some money in Japan, some money in Hong Kong, and obviously 30-40% of your international money could perhaps even go to China, South Korea and Taiwan combination, right? In some cases, deep value could be struggling. In some cases, momentum could be doing well. If you've seen growth in the US, it has come from information technology, healthcare, metals, minerals, communication services, etc. Right? You see companies like Zoom, which have just really zoomed, right? Obviously, there is healthcare which has made money, but to be entering healthcare now in India, maybe I'm already seeing people who are selling, right? So this is going to happen. Value will work if you put in all the adjustments for growth. The fact that some of the very high-flying names have slowed down doesn't mean that you should not be investing in US. But yes, of course, maybe in the US market also an SIP makes more sense than a lump sum. 3 years, 4 years back, maybe a lump sum made sense, but today SIP may be making more sense. It's a dynamic situation. Japan may be just coming up, reviving, and Japanese equities could be attractive at this stage, and therefore the need to go global. How much should you go global? Maybe 10%, maybe 15%. Today you have a choice of how to go global. There are fund of funds which choose in which country how much to invest. That would perhaps be the best option for you. Then you yourself choose based on what that person has done. You say, okay, I will put some money in a Japanese fund. I will put some today. That option is also available. There is a Japan fund by Nippon. Then there is a multi country fund by ICICI Prudential. Then there is a fund which is a global equity plus global debt by DSP. You have a range of choices, and of course then there is the LRS scheme by which you can go and invest directly in the markets, provided you think you have the skills, right? But please be careful about double taxation avoidance agreement, what is to be done, and ask somebody who knows those things. I have no clue on how those things work. I don't have any investments abroad directly. I invest abroad only through fund houses. So I have used ICICI, I've used GSP, I've used PGIM, I've used Franklin Templeton, all their funds for international investing, but I have not done any direct equity investments. I have no Amazon, Google in my portfolio. If I have them through these fund houses, and of course there is a small amount of American funds coming even through a small investment in PPFAS. So having said all that, I see enough reason why you should be in international investing. You get a better range of products. You get maybe lower PE stocks. In some markets you get technology, you get like say a varied investment basket. So have a look at that, and maybe 10% of your portfolio could be in international markets, going to 20% if your portfolio is above $1 million. Thank you.